Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll.
Tobin,
Here.
Jean-Francois,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Ray,
Absent.
Kleiner,
Here.
Grin, Witt,
Here.
Massey,
Here.
President Rodriguez.
Here. Approval of minutes, nothing this evening. Correspondence.
Yes, we have a letter tonight. We have a letter from Mr. Vincent Napolitano, and it reads as follows. Middletown City Council, please read at your next council meeting. My name is Vinny, and I've been a lifelong resident of Middletown, mostly in the First Ward. I served in Vietnam during the war to defend our great country. One of the policies I fought for and continue to defend is the right for every eligible person to vote for the person they believe will best serve our residents. Along with that comes the responsibility of those elected to actually fulfill their oath of office. I've been following the no-show Orange County legislator Joel Sierra Sori. He had turned his back on us, not attending a meeting since March 30th, 2022. That is over 2 years, yet collecting over $60,000 of taxpayer money along with full benefits. As a resident of Middletown, I'm appalled. He should immediately resign, or the county's leadership should begin the process of removal by the governor. Why is it that Alderman Joe Massey is the only elected official pursuing this? What about the other 20 members of the county's legislature or the other 8 members of the Middletown City Council? The good old boys club of protecting a no-show elected officials has to end now. This study must continue until we in Middletown have the representation we are entitled to. Is it a coincidence that the only member of the Middletown Council just happens to be also a veteran, having served in the Air Force from 1963 to 1967? We need to hear from the other elected officials. We want to thank Alderman Massey for standing tall and doing the right thing for the people he actually represents. Mr. Vincent A. Napolitano, 72 Beatty Avenue.
Okay, received and filed. Okay, for the good of the city, we'll invite Jacob up. We have a presentation today, or the mayor.
I'll start. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present tonight with our consultants. And as you can see on the screen, we have the Middletown Reservoir Study. And with us this evening, we have Keith Kelly, PE, and he's also a senior VP, along with Zach Eichenwell, a PE. And they're here tonight to update our Common Council and our city residents on our efforts to continue to invest in our water system and our water sources, and a plan for a robust, lasting system for the next 100 years or more. As you all know, we're in the middle of a lot of water projects, and the next logical step is development of additional water resources, and that's where we've been investing our time, money, and that's also where we see our largest growth revenue and potential growth revenue. So without further ado, the study and evaluation is for the raw water quality in our 3 reservoirs, and with that, I'll have Jacob come up and then do an introduction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council President and Council members. As you know, the Mayor has been updating you on a regular basis. We've been investing very heavily in our water system in there. Our water system started in the late 1800, and it's been functioning and doing very well, serving the city of Middletown residents, some people in the town of Wallkill, some residents in the town of Wallkill, town of Wawayanda. And now the mayor is working with the county executive to extend it all the way into Goshen, with our commitment to Amy's Kitchen, possibly supplying the town of Goshen and enhance economic development there. That's in the works right now. Also, CDM, they have a proposal before the county executive and other consortium of towns and villages around us to develop the Indigo Reservoir for a water source, additional water source for the city of Middletown, which will enhance our safe yield and increase it. So as we've been updating you, rebuilding our dams at our reservoirs really are the soul of our water system and the raw water quality in there. It's extremely important. The mayor also has been updating you about the two grants that we obtained from DEC, $3 million each, in order to purchase and preserve forever green all the areas within our watershed around our reservoirs. We spend quite a bit of money so far, and we are still spending more money in order to purchase additional watershed. Having said all that, now we have to focus on our reservoirs and the actual water and what we have right now. And for years, the city has been using copper sulfate in there for treatment of algae, and copper sulfate has been working for us tremendously very well, as it's been working out through the rest of the country. However, it has a disadvantage, which is copper settles to the bottom of the reservoir, and eventually it builds up, and some kind of an upset within the reservoir could make this soluble copper become soluble, and then we have it in our drinking water and becomes a problem because it's a regulated contaminant within the Department of Health. So with that, the mayor and I, with the support of the Common Council President, and all of you, we appreciate all your efforts. We hired CDM Smith to do this study for us and basically figure out what we have, how much copper we have at the bottom of our reservoirs, alternate treatment. There are newer treatments that we could use, and I'm not going to take the wind out of their sail. They will make a presentation to that. So we're looking for alternate method to instead of using just copper sulfate and putting up with copper at the bottom of our reservoirs, building up for all these, for decades. We're trying to find an alternate treatment. And with that, I will turn it to Keith, the Senior Vice President with CDM Smith, a big environmental engineering and transportation engineering company. They're national and international. And with him is Zach. He came from Boston, from their main headquarters in Boston. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. As Jacob said, the health of your reservoir is very important. When you had a problem in 22, the algae blooms, Jacob reached out to us. We do a lot of algae work across the country in the health of reservoirs. Zach, come on up, Jack, is going to go through the detailed presentation. I'll be very short, but he's done a lot of work throughout New England and New York on reservoir and health studies and algae. He's an expert in it. So with that, I'm going to hand it over and let him walk you through it.
Great, thank you, Keith, and thanks for inviting me to speak here tonight. So I'm going to spend about 15 minutes or so covering some of the work that Jacob has asked our firm to come in and advise the city on. I'm first going to start with a little bit of background just to make sure that we're all on the same page and talking a similar language. I'll then talk about what we learned about the 2022 algal bloom that happened in fall of 2022 and caused taste issues in the distribution system. That led us to recommend additional data be collected to better understand the causes of potential water quality concerns in the reservoirs. So I'll go over some of our data recommendations and then the findings that we're able to draw from those, the data collected in 2023. And then I'll conclude with next steps, future work, and some recommendations.
Maybe you explain to them PowerPoint. People may not be seeing. But
Oh, yes.
When it replays,
Yes, and I'm told that the PowerPoint is unfortunately not presenting on the TV feed, but it will be put onto the TV feed after it gets posted. So just in terms of background, I am not going to narrate this entire map here, but I want to make sure that everyone has name recognition for 4 different locations that are going to come up throughout this presentation, and those are the water supply reservoirs for Middletown. So as Jacob mentioned, there are 3 main reservoirs in Middletown's system. They're all surface water reservoirs. There's Monhegan Reservoir, which is the one in the yellow little kind of elongated watershed there. That is directly adjacent to Middletown's water treatment plant. Moving to the west, there is Highland Reservoir, and then further west is the Shawangunk Reservoir. So these are the 3 main reservoirs. They're fairly large. There's also the Kinch Pond system, which is that orange watershed all the way to the west. that flows by gravity into Shawangong Reservoir and represents a fairly large watershed area. So a large area that water can collect from to be distributed into Middletown's reservoir systems and then into the water supply. So when we look at these reservoirs, we need to think about them as a natural system because they really are lakes that are just out in the environment and algae grows in them. That's normal, that's natural. From time to time, and this did happen in fall of 2022, there is the possibility of harmful algal bloom, which can cause treatability issues, can cause the taste issues that were observed in the distribution system. At the very basic level, algae grows from sunlight and nutrients, and in surface water reservoirs like Middletown, that's generally phosphorus. So if there's too much phosphorus, we can tend to see too much algae that grows in quantities that have adverse impacts. So taste, and if you really have a very large algal bloom, which we have not observed in the city of Middletown, you can also have toxicity to aquatic life. So myself and our firm, we were brought into this by Jacob and the council to first understand what caused the 2022 algal bloom, and then what could the city of Middletown do to improve its resiliency against having this type of event happen in the future. So this is a timeline of what we know from the data about what happened. So in about mid-October, there was a bloom of an algae called denobrium in Monhegan Reservoir. So that's the reservoir that's right adjacent to the Middletown water treatment plant. This is an algae species that can cause taste and odor issues. So it's not surprising that this would cause taste and odor issues as it increases in concentrations. The city observed that this was increasing in their water supply, and they sought permission from DEC for an additional copper sulfate treatment that kills the algae. So that happened a couple days later. Unfortunately, it did not work, where they sampled again in October 26th, so the end of October, and found that the algae had increased in concentration. And this was, of course, concerning because it was causing taste issues throughout the distribution system. At this point, the city switched its reservoir supply to Highland Reservoir, which did improve the conditions in the drinking water supply. However, the city, of course, wants to know, why did this occur? It's obviously anomalous. This does not typically happen in the fall. So we looked at existing data that the city has to evaluate what might have caused this to happen in fall of 2022. So we looked at data that's being collected by the city of Middletown, as well as records of when that copper sulfate algicide is applied, and then looking at climactic data. So air temperature, like I said, the algae are one of the things that helps them grow is sunlight and algae. They photosynthesize and grow in that way. Wind speed and cloud cover. So basically the outside external forces that might cause algae to grow. And our review of this data was that it was a little bit warmer than average in October. So that's already a hint that you might see a higher than average algal growth just because there's more sunlight, more warmth to drive that algal growth. And then separate from that, we looked at a few other factors. There were some fairly high winds in early October, and these reservoirs are unique in that they're deep, which means that they can end up with a very poorly mixed lower level that can accumulate nutrients at the very bottom. That lower level can be mixed up into the reservoir, so you can, in essence, bring up new nutrients that were not previously available to the algae to grow. So wind can cause that mixing to occur, and we believe that did occur in October. So that increased that phosphorus, that fuel for the algae to grow, and it allowed that denobrium to have a competitive advantage and take over, essentially. That copper treatment that happened in mid-October, it happened when it was beginning to grow. And this type of algae is a unique one in that it can both metabolize sunlight and it can also metabolize organic matter. So if there is a lot of dissolved organic matter, as there would be with the algae that has now since been inactivated or killed by that copper sulfate treatment, that can be another source of fuel for that algae to bloom. So we believe that is likely another source of why that algae bloom persisted even after that treatment. So a combination of warmer than typical weather, high winds that brought in more nutrients, more phosphorus to cause that algae to grow, then perhaps some additional organic matter that could cause that algae to grow further. So really a unique set of circumstances in 2022 that of course could happen again if all those circumstances align. But nonetheless, we know now that there is a possibility of seeing this type of event in the reservoirs. So as we look through the data and the analysis, we learned that we needed some additional information, and most of this information was about where the sources of phosphorus, so where that fuel for the algae to grow was coming from. The phosphorus can come from outside of the reservoir, so from the watershed, and that's why the city of Middletown is committed to purchasing land throughout the watershed to enhance its watershed protection. That's extremely important to reduce sources of external phosphorus load that can come into the reservoir. It can also come from inside the reservoir. Phosphorus can accumulate in the sediments and be released under certain circumstances into the water column to cause additional phosphorus and additional algae to grow. So we wanted to understand where those sources of nutrients were coming from so we could better advise Jacob and the city on what actions might be taken to reduce the likelihood of such an event happening in the future. So to do this, we did a whole bunch of work. We collected some nutrient work in both inside the reservoir and external to the reservoir. We collected a bathymetric survey, so we understood what the depths are across all 3 reservoirs. And we also looked at how much phosphorus is within the sediments themselves. In addition to all that data collection, we also looked into using a different type of algicide, hydrogen peroxide-based algicide that is less toxic to other aquatic life than the copper sulfate-based algicide that Middletown currently uses.
Quick question?
Yes, of
What's
course.
meant by the term bathymetric?
So you know what a topographic map is? So it's the same as a topographic map, but of a water body.
Thank you.
Yep. So exactly the same contours and everything, just inside the water instead of outside. Yes, the profile at the bottom of the reservoir. So the first thing we looked at is nutrient sampling within the reservoirs. And what we found is that the reservoir concentrations are elevated relative to guidance values that we use to tell us that the lake is of low productivity, so low likelihood of algae growing. And the other thing that we found, and I'll just call your attention to that plot on the right, is the big difference between the phosphorus at the surface, which is that red, the orange and the blue, and the phosphorus at the bottom. That's telling us that there is substantial phosphorus that's being regenerated from within the reservoir. So not only is there phosphorus coming from the watershed, there's also phosphorus coming from the sediments that's adding to the potential to drive algal growth. We also looked at what's coming in from the watershed. This is where that Kinch Pond system is important. Remember that watershed that's all the way to the west. We looked at how much phosphorus is coming in from Kinch Pond and how much is coming from a transfer between the reservoirs, just to understand how much phosphorus is coming from outside. And this found that there's quite a bit of phosphorus in the Kinch Pond watershed system, and that merits some additional investigation and then hopefully looking for some additional ways to either purchase additional land or implement additional watershed controls to further reduce that source of phosphorus into the reservoirs. Then finally, the sediment phosphorus. We found that this is also high, which was not a big surprise to us based on the levels that we saw from the reservoir sampling themselves. The amount of phosphorus that's available to be released into the water column is the gray lines in that plot at the very bottom. That red dash line is a threshold that we use to say it's high. So that suggests that there's a very high amount of phosphorus just sitting in the sediments that can be released under the right conditions. And that is a significant source of the potential for algal growth. And when we say that under certain conditions, the primary condition under which you see this released is when there's little oxygen in the water. This happens in reservoirs fairly frequently, and in Middletown's reservoirs, especially Highland and Shawangunk, a large fraction of the area is low oxygen or no oxygen, which means that that sediment is especially likely to be releasing phosphorus into the water column. So all of this data, and I know I went through it very quickly, so I'm happy to get into more detail if you'd like, but we used all of this data to help us understand what the sources of nutrients are that could cause algal growth, and then from that look at some recommendations that the city could use to reduce the likelihood of those conditions happening in the future. And specifically found that phosphorus is high in the reservoirs. That's consistent with the amount of algae that is observed in the reservoirs through the city's monitoring and the need to apply copper sulfate fairly often. We found that there is high sediment loads, so there's a lot of nutrients that are being generated from within those, in the reservoirs themselves. That tells us that a treatment of the lake itself might be warranted or is warranted to reduce that source, to cut that source off, to kind of reduce the likelihood that algae grows. Because as we reduce the phosphorus, the kind of the store of fuel, then just simply less algae can grow because the algae that are there use the nutrients, and that is a limit on how much algae can survive in the reservoir, because once the fuel is gone, once the phosphorus is gone, you can't grow more algae. That said, there is still significant external loading, especially from the Kinch Pond system, so that is another source of phosphorus that should be evaluated. As Jacob mentioned, and as I mentioned earlier, the city does currently treat with copper sulfate. It's an algicide that is used to inactivate or kill algae within the reservoirs. This is typically done every 2 weeks. And is used to prevent algae blooms from occurring, which then could cause taste and odor issues or toxicity issues within the reservoirs. Copper sulfate, of course, copper is toxic. So there are other compounds that can be used for this that are much less toxic, and one of those is hydrogen peroxide. It's a algicide that works to essentially oxidize the cells. It preferentially treats certain types of algae that are especially harmful, can cause taste and odor issues or toxicity issues, and it degrades to relatively inert compounds in the water as opposed to copper, which settles to the sediments and accumulates. So we did a series of 3 tests working in close collaboration with Jacob's team to understand how well this algicide works and at what concentration we would need to use it at. And here's the results from one of our tests. And all that we really need to understand from this result here is the lines on the screen here are showing you how much algae is in that sample. Samples below that green line, so below the 1,000 level, that's good. That's where a water supply reservoir wants to be providing water that is easy to treat. Above yellow, that's when water suppliers start to get concerned. So all of the samples to the left, those are either pre-treatment, so before any treatment was collected, or with a very low dose of the peroxide. As you go to the right, you see the lines are well below that green line. This is telling us that that peroxide worked and was quite effective for the cyanobacteria that we observed during our testing during this particular round. And we saw that across all 3 rounds, is that this technology was effective at reducing concentrations to desirable levels. I'm saying desirable levels, as I mentioned at the beginning, these are natural systems. You want algae. Algae is good for the environment. We just don't want algae to be in such high concentrations or high levels that it causes concerns for the water supply. So on to recommendations. So I've structured this into two buckets. The first is short-term actions that can minimize the impact of algal blooms. And a lot of this is what the city does already. And is pretty effective with the use of the copper sulfate. But it really just comes down to closely monitoring the reservoir conditions and make sure that you're proactively treating. One of the things about treating algae with an algicide is it's very important to treat it in the very beginning of a bloom. If you start to treat it during a bloom or towards the end of the bloom, your treatment is simply less effective. And as we found with that specific type of algae, the denobrium, that happened in October of 2022, it can even enhance the bloom if the conditions are right. So it's just proactively treating, and it would be a good idea to continue looking at alternative algicides if we do see large denobrium again. So basically repeating that bench scale test that we worked with the city on in 2023. So that's short term, what we can do now while we work to implement additional recommendations and additional actions that can improve the resiliency going forward. So we're asking the city to continue what it's doing. So continue collecting the data that we collected in 2023 to help us diagnose where the sources of nutrients are coming from. Continue being able to use copper sulfate because it's effective at reducing the algae levels to that desirable level. Continue that watershed protection work that's critical in a watershed, especially one like Middletown's, where the city doesn't actually own large fractions of the watershed, because really all that sources of phosphorus come from the land within its watershed. And it's just critical to maintain as much protection of the water supply that you can. The next recommendation is bringing that test of the peroxide-based algicide into a full-scale pilot so that the city can begin to become comfortable with the use of this technology at a big scale and not just at a jar test level. So we are working with Jacob and his team to formulate some recommendations to continue that work. The next recommendation is just ongoing surveys. Again, this is just bringing back to how critical it is to be looking for sources of nutrients within the watershed. That's where it comes from. Like I said, that's important. And then finally, looking to develop a longer-term lake management plan. And this gets to what Jacob was really getting to in his introduction, where we're looking to maintain the resiliency of water quality in these lakes for the next 100 years. So this consists of looking to implement a in-lake treatment that can reduce that phosphorus level. And one way to do this is to use a technology called aluminum sulfate, which is a chemical treatment that can safely sequester that internal phosphorus, basically take all those gray bars and reduce them substantially to reduce the kind of overall reservoir of phosphorus available for the algae to grow. So that's those are our findings and recommendations. So I'm happy to take questions, and I have a lot more slides if you really want details.
Alderman Johnson.
I just have a couple of questions.
Please.
I'm sure they'll want me to turn off my microphone, but that's okay. I'm a veterinarian, so I'll preclude my questions with that caveat. First of all, what's meant by the term oligotrophic lake? What does that mean? That grows different types of algae?
Yes. So oligotrophic is referring to the trophic state of the lake. So it essentially refers to how productive the lake is or how much algae there is. A oligotrophic lake is characterized by low phosphorus concentrations, generally below 10 micrograms per liter. And it's what we look to as a healthy lake that supports a healthy amount of algae. That's where you want to, that's kind of where you want to be if you're looking to support a high-quality water supply. Above that, there's mesotrophic, and then eutrophic, and then hypereutrophic, kind of going up the list of how much phosphorus, how much algae there is.
I'm sure you don't know this, there's an ongoing conversation in the veterinary world between the FDA and the veterinarian about copper in pet food, which is a very difficult target to elucidate. And there are certain breeds of dogs that if they accumulate copper in their liver, it becomes hepatotoxic. Also, if you have too much phosphorus in your water, if you're disturbing the calcium-phosphorus ratio of your nutrients. So my question to you with that introduction, are copper or phosphorus actually going to go into the potable water that we're drinking, or does that get taken care of at the water treatment plant?
So I would need to defer to Jacob on questions about treatability, but the copper that is being added to the reservoirs does settle to the bottom. And I'm guessing, Jacob, that, yeah,
Right, my next
I'm
question-
assuming you test and do not have copper.
My next question is, when we pump the water out of the reservoir, are we pumping from the top of the water or the bottom of the water?
The intakes are, I believe, close to the bottom.
That's
Middle to the top.
good answer. Okay,
Yes.
go ahead. Anyway, those are my questions.
Variable intakes, yes.
So that when the water quality varies, we can adjust our intake.
Okay. So these elements do get neutralized in water treatment?
Yeah. Zach did a great job, and usually engineers, once they start talking, they don't stop, so.
We know.
You know, I know. I brought him in here so you can appreciate me, that's why I brought.
Oh, it's an engineer thing. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, Dr. Johnson, basically copper, we try to maintain it. This is this is really what prompted us to do this study. Is we're concerned about adding all that copper,
Correct.
which, like Zach said, precipitates. It goes back to the bottom of the reservoir, stays there. But we're worried at some time where chemistry of the water, the pH or whatever, it changes in there, that will make it soluble, meaning dissolved in the water and comes up and it goes into our system, at which time we don't have the treatment technology to treat it and to remove it.
I didn't think you did.
Yeah, so we're gonna keep it out of sight, out of mind, and that's why we're planning for the next 100 years to hopefully use either alum, which is aluminum sulfate treatment, which is once every few years. That's one option. They're looking for us onto that to see the factor of economy, cost-benefit analysis, or hydrogen peroxide. As you know, hydrogen peroxide, there is no alum, there is no copper, there is nothing in there. It's oxygen and hydrogen. Right. And both of them are just basic, non-toxic, it's like water, basically, once they are dissolved and treated. So, that's what we are looking for. We want to stop using the copper for the very reasons that you mentioned.
All right, I'll just remind you that aluminum is not user-friendly either if it's in our water, just for saying.
Exactly right, and so our primary coagulant in the water treatment plant is aluminum sulfate, which is aluminum.
Right.
So if we don't control, and what we do is we dose enough in there in order to remove turbidity and impurity from the water so we can drink it safely without having alum seeping out through our treatment system. And that's a very tough balance in there by watching the pH in there. We have to be within certain window, otherwise aluminum will become soluble, will dissolve in the water and will get out and we'll have to drink it, and that's when we get into Alzheimer's disease and all that stuff in there.
Thanks.
So it's all very involved treatment in there too. It looks easy from the outside, but once you dig into it, as obviously.
I think the three of us need to stop talking. Thank you very much.
So Jacob and Zach, do a quick question. Going back to treatment, is it DAF or our current system? Would that treat it? What kind of system would treat the algae? Or not even the algae, but the chemicals?
Yeah, this guy is almost like a chemist. So as far as the treatment, dissolved air flotation is the ideal treatment for algae. This way you don't have to kill the algae, because once you kill the algae, you release all these toxins in there. And if it's very, like Zach was saying, if you have a major algae bloom, and you go kill the algae, you release all these toxins in there and taste and odor and all that stuff because you're killing the algae. Dissolve air flotation in there, if you have adequately sized system, it will be able to float, take the algae out of the raw water, float it and skim it from the top before killing it. So it's a huge advantage.
Our current system that we have, the new water treatment plant, doesn't do that, correct?
We have a combination. We have the dissolved air flotation.
We have a packaged plant.
Yes, the dissolved air flotation, which is equivalent to 1/3 of our treatment system, and then the other one is the conventional one. But it's working very well together.
Okay. Alderman Kleiner?
Thank you. Do we use any aeration devices like we have up at Davidge Park? Does that add oxygen to the water? Is that effective at all?
That is an effective lake control. There is not currently a aeration system in any of the 3 reservoirs. But that is an option, and it comes down to essentially a cost-benefit analysis of a one-time alum treatment that you hope will last for 10 to 20 years versus a smaller capital investment of the aeration system, but then you have the ongoing O&M costs for either running the pumps, the compressors. Many of these systems use oxygen, so then it's the cost of generating that oxygen. So it's essentially trading over a planning horizon what the different costs are for how much.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay. Alderman Tobin?
Just real quick, the hydrogen peroxide, is it used throughout the country in a lot of places?
It
Is
is.
it the gold standard or one of them?
So I would say the historical gold standard is copper sulfate. That's historically what water reservoir operators have used. I would say recently there's a push to look for alternatives to copper sulfate given its toxicity controls, and hydrogen peroxide is a compound that has been very successful in other surface water supplies. So it's becoming the standard for treatment.
Okay. Anyone else? Alderman John Francois?
I'm going to veer from that topic a little bit. It's been a lot of discussion that I've been hearing around the country lately far as cyber attack into our water system. Is this something that you guys are looking at? At these guys, okay.
Yeah, I would need to defer to Jacob on that question.
Okay.
Thank you, Alderman. Yes, the EPA and DOH and the State Controller's Office, as a matter of fact, they sent their forensic cyber security team over here to analyze our data and our system. We have an independent SCADA system who is monitoring all our cyber security in there and making sure that we have the adequate firewalls. And we have, believe it or not, our own system, which is basically once we are most of the time we are unplugged from the internet. Before we designed it so that I can carry a laptop or the chief operator can carry a laptop and he can change everything. All the controls, all the chemical feeds and all this. We stopped all that. Right now, our water treatment plant, it's SCADA controlled, but it's literally unplugged from the outside world. The only time we plug it is when our vendor has a secure connection into our SCADA system, and he calls in, then we can verify it, then we can plug it in for a certain amount of time, then we unplug it, because we don't want to just play that hassle. Otherwise, we do have the adequate firewalls and all the security system in place.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, anyone else? All right, I thank you for everything. Thank you for the presentation.
Great, thank you.
All right, for the good of the city, if anyone from the public would like to address the council, please step forward. All right, seeing none, remarks to the mayor.
Good evening. I want to thank CDM for the presentation, and also, as I mentioned earlier, this is not only our lifeline for the city for drinking water, but it's also our financial lifeline. So any investments we make in this future here are going to be well worth it. Just want to speak briefly on the Run for Downtown announcement that we had last Thursday at the Pavilion. Was well attended. I want to thank Anna and Dave Madden from Piccolo's for once again organizing the event. And the Run for Downtown will be in the third Saturday in August. And hoping for a large turnout. It's been increasing in participation over the past few years since COVID, put it on hold. So the party that was held at the Pavilion, the kickoff party, was a result of some of the major donors and contributors into the program. And I'd like to thank once again Greg Townsend and Marshall and Sterling for their $5,000 contribution as the prime sponsor for the Run for Downtown. There are many other smaller sponsors, but we had one prime sponsor, and that is Marshall and Sterling. Tomorrow night at the Rotary Club of Middletown will be at Degnan Square. If you've ridden by John Degnan Square, you've seen the large group of flags there for Memorial Day. They were there by a program that was initiated by the Rotary Club, and they're going to do a brief program tomorrow reading off the names of the people who are there, or the people who are represented there by sponsors from families and friends. And that will be kickoff at 5:30. Mark Fellenzer was our contact on that, and I want to thank the Rotary Club for all they did there. A group of us had the opportunity to attend the New York Conference of Mayors Conference up in up at Lake George, not in Albany, just north of Albany. It was very informative, and I'm sure Mr. Massey will be sharing some of his insight into what he learned at the conference through his finance committee and through the meetings coming forward. But it was a very worthwhile conference to attend, and I want to thank the city officials who attended for taking the time away from their families to attend this conference. You're voting on a few things tonight. One will be the MN&J subdivision, and that is the train station at the corner of East Main and Railroad. And if you recall, that's the $500,000 grant through Assemblywoman Gunther's office. We will be purchasing it. We will be subdividing off a piece of the property, fencing off the rail track. The property currently is being used by many people on the Heritage Trail, although we don't own it yet, but they're using it. We'll be making improvements on the property with the $500,000 grant. The purchase price is $180,000. The property goes all the way down Railroad Avenue, I believe right up to Sprague Avenue. So this is going to be a great addition to the city, and we're looking forward to implementing some type of request for concepts to get some type of revenue-generating business into this facility, along with a small welcome center for people using the Heritage Trail. You're also going to see two grants on the agenda, one for $55,000, a planning grant for the Middletown Community Campus, along with a $250,000 grant, both through the auspices of the Senator Skoufis and Assemblywoman Gunther, working with Maria Bruni and her staff in the Economic Development Office. The $250,000 was applied for with a pattern for progress. We're combining the two grants. It's a brownfield grant, and we will be developing a plan for the entire campus and addressing the brownfield issues there. Our understanding of this grant is once the study is done, this should create access to additional funding, some state funding for the redevelopment of that campus. On a small scale, you'll be voting on a transfer for the Hampshire Park. It's just a utilization of some leftover funds from the construction of bathrooms at the Fancher Davidge Park area. And rather than continue to use porta potties at Hampshire Park, we're going to upscale Hampshire Park, and we're going to put in a real bathroom. So, but that's the $10,000 transfer that you'll be voting on. And last but not least, the courthouse grant. We were hoping to have a press conference on Thursday. This is the first step to getting the grant through Senator Skoufis of $3 million. We hope to have the news finalized on Thursday, in which he will be making the announcement that we were able to transfer $1 million of a grant from last year for infill, along with $2 million in additional grants, and that will bring the city's cost of the court mandate down from $6 million to $3 million. As you know, this has been an ongoing battle for many, many years with the Office of Court Administration. We sort of gave a commitment that we would split the cost with them due to that courts are no longer local courts, they're more regional courts, especially the Middletown Court. We are doing arraignments for people throughout the county. We're using it as veterans court, drug court, and so we felt that it was not our responsibility to provide 100% of the capital cost for a new court as directed by the Office of Court Administration. We had the disagreement for many, many years. We reached an agreement on an alternate plan, finally, and then the last phase was funding. And that's been going on for about 2 or 3 years on who's going to pay for the project. And Senator Skoufis has come through. And if you recall, going back 7 or 8 years, the original $2.5 million for the acquisition of the property came through Assemblywoman Gunther. So it's been a long-time project, but it looks like it's coming to fruition. We'll hear on Thursday from the senator himself and hopefully Assemblywoman Gunther about the grant being finalized. So that's all good news, but your support on the grant this evening is important for us to process and make sure we get that final decision. I think that's all I have. I do. That's all I have. Have any
Any
questions?
questions for the mayor? Alderman Kleiner.
Thank you. Mayor, are we any closer with the state to the, getting the psych center property?
Yes, we received an email from him last week that it's cleared its final hurdle. Administratively, there were I think it was 7 or 5 different agencies that had to go through on the state level. They have all approved, and the last step is bond council. They're waiting for the bond council approval. We were told by email that we should close it in mid-June, so that will be coming up this mid-June.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Mayor. Remarks of department heads, economic development.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to remind everyone that next weekend, May 30th and 31st, our summer concert series begin, and they're going to be kicked off by the Middletown School District. On the May 30th, Thursday night, is the Mariachi Ensemble and the Middletown High School Jazz Band, and that's at Run for Downtown Park. And May 31st, the Marching Midi Drumline and the Modern Band, and that's at John Degnan Park. Also, the Farmers Market begins on June 1st, so we have some new vendors this year and farmers, so that's from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Erie Way Park under the pavilion. We have a ribbon cutting coming up as well next Friday, Aftermath Barbershop. That's the new shop on North Street, 59-61 North Street. And for Community Development Agency, we are closing on our Lafayette property this week, and I will give you an update on the closing and everything at our next CDA meeting. And that's all I have for tonight.
Any questions for Maria? Thank you, Maria. DPW Commissioner.
Good evening, all. I appreciate your patience with the presentation by CDM Smith. They've done really an excellent job, and they're very thorough. So we appreciate that very much. We appreciate everybody's patience and your support, especially for funding these studies and there and understanding the value of it. With that being said, the reservoirs, Alderman Massey, 100% full, so you can relax. We're in good shape. Reminder to the public, the grass, please. Now we talk about quality of life. Now, the grass, please keep it cut. It shouldn't be higher than 6 inches, so keep that in mind. We send you the letter for 5 days warning. If you don't do it, then we're going to come in and do it, not only residential, but commercial or industrial properties. And the charges vary, so that the council will know we billed about $9,100 for just cutting grass in different properties from April 25th until last Friday. So, we don't need to do that. We're not enjoying that. We don't have the manpower to do that, but it's very important to maintain quality of life. And when the grass is high, please cut it and take care of it. New York State DEC did their annual inspection, unannounced annual inspection to our wastewater treatment plant. I don't know why the DEC, they try to play that cat and mouse, hide and go seek, I guess. The health department, New York State Department of Health and Orange County Department of Health, they call us in advance to inspect all our water system, which is the most critical, our reservoirs, our water storage tanks, our water system. We make appointment for 1 month in advance. The DEC is different. They just drive in and they start inspection as if they're going to catch the big thing. So we love them.
We have nothing to hide, right?
We love them. We absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're very proud of our wastewater treatment plant, our water treatment plant, and all of our system. So that I believe it was all satisfactory. You guys will get the report from them, as well as the mayor, as well as me, and we'll find out of their inspection. The annual water quality report for 2023 has been published, and I believe there was a link that was sent out with the water bill, and it is available for anybody who wants to know about our water quality, our raw water, what we have in our water. If you have any questions, please call our office, DPW, 343-3169. The phone numbers are there. The mayor's office is there. My office is there. The phone numbers, you can contact us with any questions whatsoever about our water, the quality of the water, what you drink every day, and what you use. And we take that very seriously, that work. We have 3 resolutions before you tonight. One is for CPL. They've been involved with the inspection of Highland Avenue Tank. Highland Avenue Tank, the contractor really is not on top of his game. He does quality of work, but management-wise, very poor. That's Highland Avenue Water Storage Tank. The tank has been painted, has been put online as of February 17th, somewhere in that area. I have my notes in there, the exact date. Make a long story short, the painting had to be dragged into winter condition, so we had to hire a specialty inspector to make sure that the paint is being applied at the optimum ambient conditions for it to be to meet the manufacturer recommendation and warranty. So that's an extra expense with the much longer inspection time. So should have ended. Completion of the contract was, I believe, in October. We're still not done with the contract. So there is a change or amendment to the contract with CPL for Clark Patterson Lee, CPL, for about $59,000. That was passed by the Board of Estimate, and it's before you tonight. There is no additional funding we're requesting. It's going to be funded through the available state revolving fund grant and the contingency of the project. And hopefully we're trying to get some liquidated damages. We're talking to the bonding company of the contractor about liquidated damages to cover our cost or partially cover our costs. We'll see how far we get with that. Before you tonight, also talking about what the mayor was saying and CDM and myself and the council president and all of you about applying for grants. We have 3 pending grants right now, and the deadline for applying for another grant is in June 14th, somewhere in there. Part of the requirement for the grant, it's about $10.2 million, the grant for raw water line from Kench to Shawangam to replace it. That's a 1900 water line. And phase 1 is already, we have a grant for phase 1, which is half of the line. This is for the second half for $10.2 million. We can get a grant up to 60% of the cost of the project, maximum $5 million, which was what happened to us with the previous phase 1. And the rest of it is going to be low interest loan funded by or subsidized by New York State revolving fund. So we request your approval for this. And with that, I just checked with the mayor. My apologies. It did not make the agenda, but it's important for us to pass a resolution. It was approved for your consideration. So we need a resolution from the floor, if possible, for WSP, for inspection and construction management of the traffic operation for $1,422,000. For some reason, it did not make it on the agenda, or I did not see it. But we're requesting your approval, and that will cover their services from April 2024 to April 2025, and that will be the end of the completion of that project, the traffic operations and everything you see taking place over there. The funding for this, the $1.4 million, $644,000 has already been secured through Orange County Transportation Council by DOT funding. The remaining, just about $800,000, just under $800,000. We requested that funding from the Orange County Transportation Council through the TEP, Transportation Improvement Program through DOT. So hopefully all that additional expense for the third year inspection of WSP of this big, massive project is going to be borne by the project and by the funding of the project. Hopefully it's going to be minimal on our taxpayers' expense. So I would request the council resolution from the floor if you can.
Any question for Jacob? Jacob, truck 3, is it still, has it sold? Is it still up in the water trim?
I know it is.
It's got a lot of metal. We could throw it in the reservoir. That kind of metal too?
No, that will become iron manganese. That's not good. Iron manganese. No, it is. I told our people to put it in. I believe I just signed a couple of papers. It's going to be on auction. If it's not in the auction,
How
it's
long
going
does
to
it
be
take to get on the auction?
I'm sorry?
How long does it take?
I don't know. I just told the guys. The guy comes in, he takes pictures of the auctioneer and there, and he puts it on his website and all that stuff. But we are pursuing it. We're not ignoring it. I told my guys since we had last had this conversation a while ago, it will be there.
Okay. Police chief.
Good evening. I just want to highlight the case that we just put a press release out on yesterday. I had spoken to the council, or briefed the council about a month ago in regards to this case. It's a 5-year-old cold case homicide from Knapp Avenue. We did make an arrest about a month ago, and just last week we made what we believe to be the final to arrest in this case. As I said before, this is a testament to the hard work that goes in, day out, by my staff as well as all of our partners in law enforcement. Key partners in this are state police and the district attorney's office. Again, on our end, Detective Andrew Rosen, was the lead in this. He deserves a lot of credit for the effort that he put into this. So I just want to publicly recognize him once again, and just congratulate him on a good job, along with all the partners that he had with our own staff. And I'm really hoping that this will bring some peace to the Avalon Medina family, as they've suffered the last several years trying to come to a closure for their son. Other than that, I have nothing unless you have questions.
Any question for the police chief? Thank you, chief. Superintendent of Recreation.
Good evening. Just two things. One is the donation from the Middletown Little League. That money is going to be used to have extra clay and help redo the infield of Stevens Field. And the other resolution is just approving the single-stall restroom at Amsher Park, like the mayor said, so we could get rid of having the porta potty there constantly. And that is all I have tonight. Any questions?
Any questions?
Nope.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Corporation Counsel.
I don't have anything tonight unless anybody has any questions.
Any question for our Corporation Counsel? Thank you, Alex. And City Clerk? Any question for the City Clerk Assistant? All right. Remarks of Alderman Massey.
Just, excuse me, just a reminder, Memorial Day parade next Monday at the 27th at 9:30 a.m. at Thrall Park. We'll just be laying wreaths there. The actual ceremony will be at the Walk Hill Veterans Park. We will march down there. It's 9/10 of a mile, and then we'll have the ceremonies there. The second thing quickly is the mayor was correct. A few of us went up to the NICOM conference just outside of Lake George. It was very well attended throughout the entire state,
and the sessions were very valuable. He did catch me off guard. I will be happy to prepare something about the sessions that I attended and present it at the next meeting. Thank you.
Alderman Witt.
Thank you. I just want to let everybody know that the budget vote and the Board of Education election, the results will probably be on the district website and on Facebook by 9:30 or 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Alderman Kleiner.
Thank you. Commissioner, I didn't get my hand up soon enough, but the resolution did make it onto our agenda. It just doesn't have a number. It's between 86-24 and 88-24, but no number. It says authorization to enter into an agreement with WSP USA for Middletown Traffic Operations Stage 1 and 2. Is that what you were referring to? Yes. It's on the second sheet, and I guess it would be
It's 87.
87-24.
87. I
The number was skipped.
I don't see.
Yeah, so it, but it's between 86 and 88, so
Oh, gosh.
it would be 87?
It was 1,422,000.
Asking me what number it should be?
It's 87-24.
24.
But the number is not there. Yeah, we added.
Okay,
It's a
so
typo.
you'll read that when we go through the resolutions. Other than that, nothing this evening, thank you.
So I'm good.
Alderman Johnson.
Nothing this evening.
Alderman John Francois.
Great presentation from CDM Smith. It seems like our water. Yeah, good evening. It was a great presentation by CDM Smith. It seems like our water supply is in good hands, so thank you.
Alderman Tobin.
The other day, I just want to compliment the police department, the fire department. I heard a big screech in front of my house and a smash, and there was a car accident. Someone ran into a telephone pole, and the people were yelling at each other. One guy's taking his shirt off. The police got there. They were calm, cool, collected. The fire department took care of the car. The volunteers were there, and everything was settled, and nothing escalated. So definitely going to compliment them on handling that situation. As far as the letter, I'd like to thank Mr. Napolitano for his service, and I'd like to, Legislator Sierra, I can't give him legal advice or medical advice, but I do agree with Alderman Massey. As a public servant, I would give him the advice, and as a constituent living in the district, that, I was hoping that he would, get better, but after 2 years, and I don't want to kick a person when he's down, but I would advise him to do the right thing and step down. The people have a right to representation. I live in the district, and if you can't do it, I think you should step aside, and you could run for the office down the road if you want to. Thank you.
New business.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Tobin, authorizing the reappointment of Michael Zahorchik to the Civil Service Commission.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Tobin, second by Alderman Johnson. Any discussion? Alderman Massey.
Just to let you know, I cannot, I'll have to abstain on this.
Okay. Anyone else? Roll.
Tobin,
Aye.
Jean Francois,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kleiner,
Aye.
Witt,
Aye.
Massey,
Abstain.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey for the approval of a two-lot subdivision for a lot line change involving two properties located just south of East Main Street and just west of Railroad Avenue.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey, second by Alderman Witt. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin.
Aye.
Jean Francois.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kleiner.
Aye.
Witt.
Aye.
Massey.
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Witt for the authorization to retire K-9 Hunter from the Middletown Police Department.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Witt, second by Alderman Tobin. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin.
Aye.
Jean Francois.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kleiner.
Aye.
Witt.
Aye.
Massey.
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Tobin for the authorization to declare 2 police vehicles as surplus.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Tobin, seconded by Alderman John Francois. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Jean Francois?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Witt?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Kleiner for the authorization to enter into an agreement with USP USA for Middletown Traffic Operations Stage 1 and Stage 2.
Resolution by Alderman Kleiner, seconded by Alderman Johnson. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Jean Francois?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Witt?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey for the authorization to accept a $55,000 grant from the Empire State Development Corporation to create a strategic plan for Middletown Community Campus.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey, seconded by Alderman Tobin. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Jean Francois?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Witt?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Johnson for the authorization to accept a $500,000 CREST grant award for the Middletown and New Jersey Railroad Station.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Johnson, seconded by Alderman John Francois. Any discussion? Roll.
Alderman Tobin?
Aye.
Jean Francois?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Witt?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Jean Francois for the authorization to accept a grant of $250,772 in Brownfield Opportunity Area funding through the 2023 Consolidated Funding Application.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman John Francois, seconded by Alderman Kleiner. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Jean Francois?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Witt?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Witt authorizing to accept a $3,500 donation for the Little League for infield clay.
All the resolution sponsored by Alderman Witt, seconded by Alderman John Francois. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Jean Francois?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Witt?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Tobin for the authorization to enter into an agreement with McCabe and Mac LLP to commence a mortgage foreclosure action against William Scolano and Christina Scolano.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Tobin, seconded by Alderman Massey. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Jean Francois?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Witt?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Witt that authorizing a $10,076.36 budget transfer to cover the cost of restroom installation at Amcher Park.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Witt, seconded by Alderman Massey. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Jean Francois?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Witt?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Kleiner authorizing to transfer $4,373.35 within the 2024 water budget to cover the cost of training expenses.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Kleiner, seconded by Alderman Johnson. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin?
Aye.
Jean Francois?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Kleiner?
Aye.
Witt?
Aye.
Massey?
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey authorizing a proposal from Clark Partisan Lee for Amendment Number 1 of additional services for the Highland Avenue Water Tank Project.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey, seconded by Alderman Witt. Any discussion? Jacob, good quick question. What's the issue again on Highland Avenue?
Highland Avenue tank, the water storage tank.
Yep.
The contractor does quality work, but very poor management, so it's taking him a long time. The contractor should have been done, the original inspection fees was based on finishing the construction in October last year. However, we are into May, God bless you, and we're still going on with the construction of the tank. It's not over. We're contacting the bonding company, and it's dragging on and on. And we had to get a specialty inspector outside Clark Patterson, who specializes in cold weather painting, to make sure that, because it's, you know, it's within an enclosure, the tank, but we still wanted to know that we have the most optimum ambient conditions before we apply the paint. So that's why.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Roll.
Tobin.
Aye.
Jean-Francois.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kleiner.
Aye.
Witt.
Aye.
Massey.
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Johnson authorizing to accept a $3 million SAM grant funding for Senator's Office for the former federal courthouse project.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Johnson, second by Alderman John Francois. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin.
Aye.
Jean-Francois.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kleiner.
Aye.
Witt.
Aye.
Massey.
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman John Francois authorizing to accept an award of $136,315 for the Division of Criminal Justice Services, DCJS, Law Enforcement Technology Grant.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman John Francois, second by Alderman Massey. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin.
Aye.
Jean-Francois.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kleiner.
Aye.
Witt.
Aye.
Massey.
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Kleiner authorizing to approve Roosevelt Avenue easement agreement.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Kleiner, seconded by Alderman Johnson. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin.
Aye.
Jean-Francois.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kleiner.
Aye.
Witt.
Aye.
Massey.
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Johnson authorizing to amend city code as it pertains to parking regulations for uninspected and unregistered vehicles.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Johnson, second by Alderman Massey. Quick question, Chief, or is this on our property or city parking lots?
Yes, city park.
So private property, they're not gonna go on private property?
This doesn't apply to that.
Okay, so all city parks, like if you're parking on there, then,
Yes, it doesn't change, it doesn't change where this is happening, it just changes the definitions of what a violation is.
roll.
Tobin.
Aye.
Jean-Francois.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kleiner.
Aye.
Witt.
Aye.
Massey.
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye.
A resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey, authorizing the issuance of $10,200,000 bonds of the City of Middletown, Orange County, New York, to pay the cost of the construction of the raw water line replacement from Kinch Reservoir to Shawangunk Reservoir, Phase 1B.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey, second by Alderman Kleiner. Any discussion? Roll.
Tobin.
Aye.
Jean-Francois.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kleiner.
Aye.
Witt.
Aye.
Massey.
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye. Audit.
First of all, you did a great job, Indira. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Mr. President, I move the accounts be audited, the claims be adjusted, and the city treasurer be authorized to issue warrants for their payment.
Resolution sponsored by Alderman Massey, second by Alderman Johnson. Roll.
Tobin.
Aye.
Jean-Francois.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kleiner.
Aye.
Witt.
Aye.
Massey.
Aye.
President Rodriguez.
Aye. Great job.
Thank you.
Move for adjournment.
moved.
Aye.